Hello, guys. I'm just here to give you a little bit of 2 cents, quick time tour of what I think is going on with this whole Trump debacle thing. Listen, I'm not a fan of any of these politics or anything, and I usually don't bother talking about them, but I'll tell you this. I wanted to share my little insight of what I've been sensing about this whole Trump campaign. So, a lot of you probably don't know about the connectivity with Trump and his uncle. His uncle was he was an IT person or something. He working for government contracts. Well, apparently he was sent to Nikola Tesla's hotel room when Nikola Tesla died, and he retrieved his papers. And he was supposed to determine whether or not there was any kind of security threats to the nation. He apparently reported that there were not. And apparently he has those papers with someone. But I do feel like the Hyperboreans are at work here, guys. I really feel like the Hyperboreans and these higher consciousness beings that usually watch over us and make sure that we don't, take the matches and blow up the world. I feel like they have to step in from time to time when things get really, really dark. And from what I've seen watching Monkeyworks' channel about all of the flights in and out of Gitmo, that, they actually have been doing something with these tribunals that people have been talking about. I experienced an event last year in 2021 in summertime where it was about a Wednesday or something. I heard 2 big explosions near my home. It shook the windows. People called it an earthquake. I'm like, that wasn't an earthquake because it was explosions. Well, subsequently after that, I heard a video about a woman who was speaking about the tunnels that they were blowing up between Atlanta and Macon, which isn't too far from here. So I was a little bit surprised to hear that because I was like, wow, that's really close to home. And then, so that Saturday, I decided to take my mom to lunch, and we went, and these 5 Marines came in. Well, there's no Marine base near my home, nor is there one in the state of Georgia, I believe. So you have to go to, I think, South Carolina to go to one of the Marine bases. So I thought it was highly unusual. And of course, they sat right down next to my table. And I had to ask them, I said, okay, I've been hearing all this stuff. I felt compelled to ask them about this situation. So I asked them, I said, are you guys just passing through? And the commanding officer, or whoever he was the leader of the group, he said, sort of. And so I was like, okay, well, that's kind of affirmation that maybe they're not really here to stay. And I said, are you guys part of the bunker busting? As I did my little fingers, in quotes. And he nodded his head as he put his menu up in front of his face. And so that kind of gave me the affirmation that they were there to blow up the tunnels. Well, now fast forward to today. What is going on? They are actually destroying the monetary system. They are breaking down all of the barriers that have been placed for this monetary system that we have been a part of, that is actually a vampiric system. They are going to get us back onto a asset-backed standard system, which is what we lost when the Federal Reserve came about. The usurpers from the underworld, the denizens of the deep, actually created this monetary system completely. We are not supposed to be on a monetary system, not by any means. This is all just a falsehood and a fallacy, and the way we live our lives is also a falsehood and a fallacy. If you look out in nature, you will see that nature does not live the way that we do. Nature does not destroy itself the way that we do. We destroy ourselves, we destroy the world, because we are unconscious and floundering around like a bunch of little children. And then, if we don't get our way, we don't get our stuff, we get a little upset, and it's really ridiculous. So we got to let go of all this stuff. We got to become more spiritual. We got to embrace who we truly are. And we got to realize that we are actually tied to this natural world. And if we do not care for it, that means we do not care for ourselves, and we will actually die because of it. So, with all of that being said, the Trump illusion is just that. It has to go on this way, where they're going to say they're going to arrest Trump. They're not going to arrest Trump. It's a show, because they have to say, hey, look over here, everybody. Something's happening very important. We need everybody's attention. So this is what it is. They must gain everyone's attention and awareness in order to have the people make their own discoveries. They cannot spoon feed these people with information because people won't digest it. They have to discover things for themselves. So what are they going to do? They're going to set up this grand play, and they're going to say, hey, look, we got to play it out like, you're getting arrested so that people will pay attention. They'll tune into the television, because most people don't even watch the regular television. They're watching Netflix and everything else. Well, the average person who is still sleeping at the helm, they don't know what's going on. So we have to allow them time to wake up, and they have to have their own moment of discovery. And this is what it's all about. So Trump is working with the Great White Brotherhood. I'll just go ahead and say it. I've been feeling it for a long time. I wasn't sure, but I believe that Trump and Putin were the sleeper agents inside the Dark Brotherhood. Now, you got to comprehend that this is going to happen time and time again. The Dark Brotherhood's going to infiltrate the White Brotherhood, and the White Brotherhood's going to infiltrate the Dark Brotherhood. It just goes back and forth like a yo-yo. This is all strategy, guys, but it's still just a game of thrones. It's a game of souls. And none of it truly matters. What matters is that you stay focused on your purpose. That's the only thing that matters. You cannot assist on these higher levels. They are above you in their levels of connectivity with other beings. These other beings will be known within about 200 years. We will know about them because they're going to play it out on the world stage about, oh, these are space aliens. They're not space aliens. They've been telling you the truth about extraterrestrials. They are from extra Earth. But again, people can't handle a grand shift of consciousness at that level. It has to be slow, and it has to be a process. So as time progresses, these things will slowly start to reveal themselves, because we can't keep perpetuating lies. That's not what the Age of Aquarius is about. The Age of Aquarius is about receiving all this technology, but now we have to gain in the spirituality in order to be responsible with this technology. And that's very, very important. We can't just be given a bunch of crazy technology that's out of this world and then expect to be responsible with it. So our next phase is going to be, okay, let's pay people for their goodness. Let's give them an incentive to do good things instead of paying them to do bad things. And I believe that's what this next system is going to entail. And Trump is a part of it. You and I are a part of it. And so is Putin. And I believe that they've been working with the white hats for a long time. And there's white hat, black hat, all this stuff. Listen, there's good factions and bad factions. It's the yin and yang principle of pushing and pulling. And it's going to be forever unending. It's always there. It's never going to change. But I wanted to show a few little videos just to give you some more evidence. This is the kind of stuff that I come across, and my friends share with me all kinds of things. So I got another video to share with you that Derek had sent me. And there's so much evidence out here about who Trump really is. He's a Trump card, guys. He is a Trump card on the New World Order. It's the last straw. He's going to be the last president. We're going to change our government structure because we have to. The government is actually going to be given back to the people. Like, the hands of the people are going to be receiving this government, and we'll have 1,000 years of peace. This has already been revealed in the I Pet Goat 3 video, and I did a little excerpt about that. You can go through all my videos and find my I Get Your Goat video, and it will reveal some of the symbolism that I read there, because all of this stuff is written in the stars. If you really want to have true knowledge, start studying astrotheology. Study the science of the stars. Study what Aristotle said. Study what Plato said. All of the wise men of the Golden Age were not wrong with the foundations of what this world truly entails. If you're following the narrative, you're following the wrong footsteps. You want to immerse yourself in the foundations of the world, which is the natural world. Nature is not going to lie, but people do. And so with each coming age, there's a narrative to drag all of the unconscious souls around and help them progress. And that's it. It's just like the stories when you were a child and they're reading you Aesop's fables and all this stuff. They're going to constantly feed the babies the stories. You want to be the wise person, go backwards in time, immerse yourself in the foundations of the natural world, how processes were done through alchemy, through the 4 elements, and then learning alchemy, and then going into magic. And I'm telling you, you will never go wrong. So that's the foundations of the world. That's what they're trying to drag everybody else around into. But listen, skip 2nd grade and go straight to the 12th grade, okay? And just say, look, I'm going to go backwards in time instead of forwards. We're going to find out what all these people in Atlantis and Lemuria, find out what they were into, what they were doing, really dig deep and go into your research, and you will find the truth if you really seek it. But if you're following this narrative out here about space aliens and UFOs and you know, going to this planet and that planet and going here and there, I'm telling you, you're going to be fooled on some level. Space is all around you, and the extraterrestrials are right here. So, you know, they're just Terrans because they're telling you they're terrestrial. Anyway, I believe that what they have is time travel capabilities. They can hop timelines. They can do all this kinds of crazy stuff. But NASA is a deceiver. And I do not believe anything that they're putting out as far as, you know, gas giant planet that they're showing you in CGI. It's all artistry. There's no images that are the same when you go and you look at all the pictures. So enough of my ranting. I'm just going to play this little video, let you guys see this, because I really feel like we are going through a shift that is going to be positive after we get rid of the denizens. The denizens are trying to take us out because they're mad and upset that they're losing their war, and they knew this time was coming, and it's happening exactly as it was preordained to. So here we go. We're going to listen to this woman for just a minute.
Something I didn't realize until I read these books, the Supreme Court isn't the highest court in the land. The Pennsylvania court is. Checkmate. And if you look at all the lawsuits and stuff that Trump and his people are doing, it's all in Pennsylvania, isn't it? These books open your mind up to a whole new world. A whole new world. It inverts everything back to the way it used to be. Best thing I ever did was read them books. Next best thing is getting sovereign. Lawful person.
Yeah, so she's talking about becoming sovereign with your birth certificate, because the usurpers of our world made us into corporations and part of the corporation by capitalizing our names on all of our documents. That's the birth certificate, the driver's license, which we're not supposed to have unless we're doing commercial business and working for someone and driving for a living. And also with your income tax and any bill that you get that's in all capital letters, it means you're part of a corporation. It's actually a legal fiction. There's a lot of legalese that it goes into, but all of that is a whole nother level. There are people that are chopping away at this whole sovereign thing right now, and it's called America's Assembly and other things, where people are taking back the power. And that's all that's really happening out in the world, is that people are taking back the power, and we're going to have a beautiful moment. Now, let's get over to this woman. So this is the video that Derek sent, and I'm just going to share a little bit of this so that you guys can hear this. Here we go.
I've heard a few other podcasts by Scott Kesterson, although I don't listen to him regularly. But in this one, he asks a question that just really set me back on my heels. And that question was, how do you save a country that is already lost? How do you save a country that's already lost? And he was talking about the US, of course. And he went on to make a few observations that struck me as very important. So I'm going to share them here in a nutshell form, just so you can be aware of what this might mean for us. So Kesterson points out that the war in Ukraine is being fought to a large extent by a private army known as the Wagner Group. And that's the European pronunciation. Here in America, we might say the Wagner Group, Wagner, but it's generally pronounced the Wagner Group. And they're working with Russia. We don't know who funds, trains, equips, and manages the Wagner Group, but the word is that it is Russian oligarchs, also known as Russian billionaires. Scott then brings up Eric Prince and a group formerly known as Blackwater. Blackwater was a private military group that went through a number of name changes and some reorganizing efforts to eventually become a private army known as Constellis, Constellis, Constellis. Like the Wagner Group, Constellis has their own surveillance, intelligence, advanced equipment, top-notch assassins, special operations teams, and training camps. And like the Wagner Group, it's really not clear how they are funded, although it appears to be through Western billionaires. Eric Prince, a billionaire in his own right, is a former Navy SEAL. A third private army, known as Defensa Internacional, is based in Lima, Peru. This group is heavily aligned with the Chinese Communist Party and appears to be funded by George Soros. It has much of the same equipment, intelligence, surveillance capacity, special operations teams, and fighting capacity as the Wagner Group and Constellis. So what we have here are three big, powerful private armies funded by billionaires and aligned with the three major nations of the planet, Russia, China, and the US. Kesterson, who not only served in special operations for the US, but also spent time managing those operations. So he's been in both roles, on the inside and directing. He then goes on to point out a few remarkable factors, and they include the following. First, the United States military has been decimated by destroying its command structure and by insisting that soldiers get that medicine in the arm. And the result is that the military has been reduced to confusion and has lost over 20% of their capacity, enough to be completely ineffective. Next, almost 2 million people have come into the US over the southern border in the past few years, and half of those have been military age, fighting age men coming out of South America. Are they coming from Defensa Internacional? They are being housed and protected in 3 areas within the US, although Kesterson did not identify these areas. Next, Donald Trump organized and funded something known as Space Force. It turns out that Constellis has the same logo as Space Force.
This is the logo for Constellis. It's this. It's similar, but you know what? We're probably going to have this as the Age of Aquarius. So it does not surprise me. If you go and watch that I Pet Goat 3 video, it will have the Age of Aquarius man riding in a ship that is shaped like this. So it doesn't surprise me. And it also is like Star Trek Enterprise and their logo that they wear on their shirts. So I don't fear that. I mean, it's similar to Trump's thing, but it's not exactly it. And this is a trifecta, so there's always some sort of symbolism to read into these things.
Was Trump building a private army to defend the US because he knew that the regular military could not do that, could not do so?
Trump, by the way, he's being helped by other beings and other factions of people around the world at their level, of course, because Trump doesn't have the money to buy a military. He's being funded by the Great White Brotherhood. Go check that out. Go look it up. Go look up all of this lingo. There's, yin and yang in the world, and we just have to know that one is of the Dark Brotherhood and one is of the White Brotherhood. And it's got nothing to do with skin color. It's just about what type of magic you're into. So
Donald Trump and Eric Prince are good friends. Trump's head of the Department of Education was Betsy DeVos from the DeVos family, just north of me in Grand Rapids. Betsy is the sister of Eric Prince. Some interesting little factors there. And then next, when the American military goes into a fight, they must abide by national laws and international rules of engagement. However, when a private army goes into a fight, they do not have to abide by any laws or rules of engagement. They are free to fight as needed and where needed. They also have the latest in equipment, whereas nations are not always able to provide the latest in guns and artillery. So now let's go back to the question asked at the beginning. How do you save a country that is already lost? A country in which every branch and institution of government has been corrupted, in which the people have been dumbed down, weakened by a bioweapon, poor food, bad education, and left in the dark with disinformation that half of the people passionately believe in. So Kesterson then asks the question that I think we need to think about. Are we witnessing a war between billionaires and their private armies? I brought up some information from the Little Men in Brown Robes in the last look-see, but it bears repeating in the light of what Scott Kesterson is asking. Back in 1980, the Little Men in Brown Robes said, quote, with control over huge amounts of wealth, their own spies, teams of lawyers and legal analysts, communications networks, armed security, and even assassins, these billionaires, will hope to step seamlessly into the position vacated by governments. So have the billionaires progressed from armed security to private armies? If military men from Défiance Internationale have been pouring over our borders for the last 2 years, who's going to stand up to them? Is it Constellus? When a famous letter of the alphabet, I think it was number 17, made the statement, quote, the military is the only way. To whose military was he referring? We cannot rely on the US military given the condition it is in. is a setup occurring to save a country that is already lost using private armies? Something to think about.
Yes, so I do believe that Trump has been at the helm ever since he took office, and he's probably been working with whatever good faction of government is left to try to bring this ship around. Because there's been many instances out here where this darkness could have taken over our world. That was 9/11, of course, and then there was a movement called Codex Alimentarius, where they were actually going to remove all of these natural supplements and beneficial vitamins and things and outlaw them, but that never happened. They were also trying to remove the guns from the hands of the citizens. Well, guess what? That never happened. There's also been some other major events where they've tried to push forward their dark agenda, and it never happened. And let me tell you why. There will always be an opposing force to push back the darkness. It will never be able to take full control. There are watchers here, just like what has been said in the Bible and all this, but they are not the evil ones. They are the ones who meditate in stasis and can remain that way for eons, watching over Earth as their consciousness leaves their body and traverses around through the different levels of objects out in the atmosphere and in the environments. Hermetics teaches this, how you can become a watcher basically by remote viewing different objects and being able to peer out from the objects that you're thinking of, and to really grow your awareness in that aspect, in that regard. So if you want to do magic, which is what this basically is, it's not magic, it is the abilities of your soul. It's the ability of your consciousness to do these things. It is not woo-woo witchcraft and all that. All we have in the world is knowledge, and what you do with it determines whether it is dark purposes or for light purposes. And that's it. Those are the foundations of this reality. You can do baneful magic, which is harmful to people, or you can do magic to benefit people. Black and white. You know, there's no right or wrong really either, but you know, we try to do the best that we can so that we can go upwards and advance our spirit, and that is the foundation. So that's my 2 cents on this whole narrative with Trump, and that whole Trump card thing. You know, it's just a game, and if that doesn't throw it in your face that he's throwing down the card on this game of thrones, then yeah, just keep watching the show. That's all this is for our souls. And I will see you guys on the next one.